Emma Martinez sat quietly in the corner of her college dorm common room, watching her roommates chat about their families during their weekly study break. The conversation had turned to parents' careers, and everyone seemed eager to share impressive stories about their mothers and fathers. "My dad's a surgeon at Johns Hopkins," bragged Jessica, flipping her blonde hair. "He saved hundreds of lives." "That's nothing," chimed in Rebecca. "My mom's a federal judge. She makes decisions that affect thousands of people every day." The other girls nodded appreciatively, sharing stories about their parents being lawyers, business executives, and professors. Emma remained silent, fidgeting with her textbook. She had heard these conversations many times before, and they always made her uncomfortable. "What about you, Emma?" Jessica asked, noticing her silence. "You never talk about your family. What do your parents do?" Emma looked up, meeting the expectant gazes of her dormmates. She had always been private about her family, partly because she knew how unbelievable the truth sounded. Her mother, Maria Santos, had always been secretive about her past, only revealing bits and pieces over the years. "My mom," Emma began hesitantly. "She used to be in the military." "Oh, that's cool," Rebecca said with polite interest. "What branch? Army? Air Force?" Emma took a deep breath. She knew what was coming next would sound impossible to these privileged college girls who had never encountered anyone like her mother. She was a Navy SEAL. The room fell silent. Jessica let out a small laugh, assuming it was a joke. "Very funny, Emma, but seriously, what did she do?" "I'm being serious," Emma insisted, her voice growing firmer. "My mother was one of the first women to complete SEAL training. She served for 8 years before I was born." The laughter that followed was immediate and dismissive. Rebecca shook her head with a condescending smile. "Emma, women can't be SEALs. It's physically impossible. The training is too intense, and besides, women weren't even allowed in combat roles until recently." Jessica joined in, her tone becoming increasingly mocking. "Right? SEALs are like the toughest soldiers in the world. No offense, but your mom looks pretty normal to me. I saw her at orientation day, remember? She's just a regular middle-aged woman." Emma felt her cheeks burning with embarrassment and anger. She had met these girls' mothers during family weekend, and while they were successful professionals, none of them had the quiet strength and mysterious scars that marked her mother's body. Maria Santos was indeed petite at 5 feet 4 inches, with graying black hair usually pulled back in a simple ponytail. To these girls, she probably looked like any other working mother. "You don't know what you're talking about," Emma said quietly, gathering her books. "My mother served her country in ways you couldn't imagine." "Oh, please," Jessica rolled her eyes. "If your mom was really a SEAL, why would she keep it secret? Wouldn't she be proud of it? My dad has his medical degree hanging in every room of our house." Emma stood up, her jaw clenched. The truth was, her mother rarely spoke about her military service. There were no photographs displayed, no medals on the walls, no war stories shared at dinner. Maria had always deflected Emma's questions with gentle but firm redirection, saying only that some chapters of life were better left closed. "Maybe because real heroes don't need to brag about it," Emma replied, her voice steady despite her inner turmoil. The girls exchanged glances, clearly convinced that Emma was either lying or delusional about her mother's past. As Emma walked toward the door, she heard Rebecca whisper to the others. "She's probably embarrassed because her mom works at some boring job. So she made up this ridiculous story." Standing in the hallway outside the common room, Emma pulled out her phone and stared at her mother's contact information. Part of her wanted to call and demand the whole truth, to get proof that would shut up these privileged girls forever. But she knew her mother well enough to understand that Maria Santos kept her secrets for good reasons. As Emma walked back to her room, she couldn't shake the feeling that there was much more to her mother's story than she had ever been told. The scars on Maria's hands that she claimed were from kitchen accidents. The way she moved with perfect balance and awareness of her surroundings. The fact that she could fix anything mechanical and seemed to know self-defense techniques she had never formally learned. Emma had always suspected her mother was hiding something significant about her past, but tonight's humiliation made her more determined than ever to uncover the truth. She didn't care if her dormmates believed her or not. But she needed to know for herself who her mother really was and what she had done during those mysterious years before Emma was born. The next morning, Emma would begin her own investigation into Maria Santos's military record, not knowing that her search would soon attract attention from people who preferred that certain secrets remain buried forever. Emma spent the entire weekend researching military records and trying to find any trace of her mother's service. She scoured public databases, military websites, and even reached out to veteran organizations online. Every search for Maria Santos or Maria Martinez in connection with Navy SEALs came up empty, which only fueled her dorm mate's skepticism. On Monday morning, Jessica and Rebecca were waiting for her in the hallway with smug expressions on their faces. "Find any proof yet?" Jessica asked mockingly. "Because I did some research too, and guess what? There's no record of any woman named Maria Santos ever being a SEAL." Emma tried to maintain her composure, but doubt was beginning to creep into her mind. Maybe her mother had embellished stories from her past. Maybe Emma had misunderstood something along the way. The lack of any official records was troubling, and she began to question her own memories. "Look, Emma," Rebecca said with fake sympathy. "It's okay if your mom wasn't some super soldier. Not everyone can have exciting parents. You don't need to make up stories to fit in." The conversation was interrupted when Emma's phone rang. It was her mother, which was unusual since Maria rarely called during school hours. Emma stepped away from the girls to answer. "Emma, sweetheart, I know this is sudden, but I need you to come home this weekend." Maria's voice sounded different, more serious than Emma had ever heard it. "Is everything okay? You sound strange." There was a long pause before Maria answered. "Someone's been asking questions about me, about our family. Questions that shouldn't be asked. I think it's time we had a conversation about my past." Emma's heart raced. "What kind of questions? Who's asking?" "Not over the phone," Maria said firmly. "Can you drive home Friday after classes? Pack enough clothes for the whole weekend. We might need to take a little trip." The way her mother said trip sent a chill down Emma's spine. It sounded less like a vacation and more like they might be running from something. "Mom, you're scaring me." "What's going on?" "Everything will make sense soon, I promise. Just trust me and don't mention our conversation to anyone. Not your roommates, not your friends, nobody." After hanging up, Emma stood in the hallway trying to process what had just happened. Her mother's voice had carried an authority and edge that Emma had never heard before. It wasn't the gentle, nurturing tone of the woman who had raised her, but something harder, more commanding. Jessica and Rebecca approached again, having overheard parts of the conversation. "Let me guess," Jessica said sarcastically. "Your mom's being called away on some secret mission?" Emma ignored them and walked to her dorm room, but throughout the week she couldn't concentrate on anything. Her mother's words kept echoing in her mind. Someone had been asking questions about Maria Santos, questions that shouldn't be asked. What did that mean? And why had her mother sounded almost military when she spoke? Wednesday evening, Emma was studying in the library when she noticed a man in a suit sitting at a nearby table. He had been there for over 2 hours, supposedly reading a newspaper, but Emma realized he had been watching her. When their eyes met, he quickly looked away and left the library. Thursday morning, the same man was sitting in his car across from her dormitory. Emma began to feel paranoid, wondering if this was connected to her mother's mysterious phone call. She tried to convince herself she was imagining things, but the feeling of being watched persisted throughout the day. By Friday afternoon, Emma was packed and ready to drive home, eager to finally get answers from her mother. As she loaded her car, she noticed Jessica and Rebecca watching from their window. They had spent the entire week making jokes about Emma's fantasy military family, and had even started calling her G.I. Jane around campus. "Bye, Emma," Jessica called out mockingly. "Say hi to your Navy SEAL mom for us. Maybe she can teach us some of her secret fighting moves." Emma got in her car without responding, but their laughter followed her as she drove away. Part of her hoped that her mother would provide some reasonable explanation that would put all this strangeness to rest. But a growing part of her suspected that the truth about Maria Santos was far more complex and dangerous than anyone could imagine. The 3-hour drive home gave Emma time to think about all the small details from her childhood that had never quite made sense. Her mother's perfect posture, the way she never seemed startled by sudden noises, her ability to sense when someone was approaching from behind. There were the late-night phone calls that stopped abruptly when Emma entered the room, and the way Maria sometimes spoke Spanish with an accent that didn't match her claimed hometown. As Emma pulled into her family's driveway, she noticed her mother standing at the window, watching the street with the intensity of someone expecting trouble. When Maria came out to greet her, Emma was struck by something different in her mother's demeanor. She moved with purpose, her eyes constantly scanning their surroundings, and there was a tension in her shoulders that suggested she was prepared for action. "We need to talk," Maria said simply, taking Emma's bag, "and after tonight you'll understand why I've kept my past secret for so long." That evening, Maria led Emma into the basement, a part of the house Emma rarely visited. As they descended the stairs, Maria flipped several light switches Emma had never noticed before, revealing a space that looked nothing like the storage area Emma remembered from childhood. The basement had been converted into what could only be described as a command center. Multiple monitors lined one wall, displaying what appeared to be security feeds from around their property and neighborhood. A large table held detailed maps, communication equipment, and files organized in military-style precision. In one corner stood a secure cabinet that Maria unlocked with both a key and a fingerprint scanner. "Sit down, sweetheart," Maria said, gesturing to a chair at the central table. "What I'm about to tell you will change how you see everything about our life." Emma stared around the room in shock. "Mom, what is all this? How long has this been down here?" "Since before you were born," Maria replied, opening one of the files. "My name isn't really Maria Santos. It's Maria Vasquez, and I served 8 years as a Navy SEAL in a classified unit that officially doesn't exist." She pulled out a photograph showing a younger version of herself in military gear, standing with a group of other soldiers in an undisclosed location. Emma could barely recognize her mother in the image. This woman looked fierce, confident, and dangerous in a way that seemed impossible for the gentle mother who had raised her. "The program was called Operation Deep Waters," Maria continued. "We were the first female SEAL unit, created for missions where male operatives would be too conspicuous. Our training was even more intense than regular SEAL training, because we had to prove women could handle the physical demands while also mastering skills in deep cover operations." Emma studied the photograph, noting the serious expressions and battle-ready equipment of the women in the image. "Why doesn't this exist in any public records?" "Because most of our missions were off the books," Maria explained. "We infiltrated terrorist organizations, gathered intelligence in hostile territories, and performed extractions that couldn't be officially acknowledged. When the program ended, our identities were sealed and we were given new lives to protect us from the enemies we had made." Maria showed Emma more photographs and documents, each revealing another layer of her secret past. There were commendations for bravery, mission reports with heavily redacted sections, and medical records showing injuries that explained some of the scars Emma had noticed throughout her childhood. "The kitchen accident that left that scar on your hand?" Emma asked, pointing to a jagged mark on her mother's wrist. "Shrapnel from an improvised explosive device in Afghanistan," Maria replied matter-of-factly. "The shoulder surgery you thought was from tennis?" "Bullet wound from a mission in South America." Emma felt her understanding of her entire life shifting. Every explanation her mother had given for her mysterious knowledge and capabilities suddenly made sense. "So when you taught me self-defense, saying it was just good for a young woman to know, that was real SEAL training, adapted for a teenager," Maria admitted with a small smile. "You're probably better prepared to handle dangerous situations than most college students, even if you don't realize it." The revelation was overwhelming, but Emma found herself believing every word. It explained her mother's intuitive understanding of mechanical systems, her ability to stay calm under pressure, and her almost supernatural awareness of their surroundings. "Why are you telling me this now?" Emma asked. "What's changed?" Maria's expression grew serious again. 3 days ago, someone accessed classified databases trying to find information about Operation Deep Waters veterans. The security flags I have in place alerted me immediately. Someone knows my real identity and is looking for me. Who would be looking for you after all these years? "Could be several groups," Maria said, pulling up a different file. "Foreign agents seeking revenge for old operations. Criminal organizations we disrupted. Or possibly someone from our own government who thinks former Deep Waters operatives pose a security risk." Emma thought about the man in the suit she had noticed at college. "Mom, I think someone's been watching me at school." Maria's posture tensed immediately. "Describe him." After Emma provided details about the mysterious man, Maria moved quickly to her computer terminals and began typing rapidly. Within minutes, she had pulled up security footage from Emma's college campus, using what appeared to be an unauthorized access to various camera systems. "There," Maria said, pointing to the screen. David Chen, former CIA operative, now works for a private military contractor. If he's watching you, it means they're using you to get to me." The reality of the situation hit Emma like a physical blow. "Are we in danger?" "Potentially," Maria replied, already moving to the secure cabinet and removing several items, including what looked like false identification documents and a significant amount of cash. "Which is why we're leaving tonight. I have a safe house prepared for exactly this situation. What about my classes? My life at school?" Maria paused and looked at her daughter with a mixture of sadness and determination. "Emma, once certain people know you exist and can connect you to me, your normal life is over until we resolve this situation. I'm sorry, but there's no going back to pretending we're just an ordinary family." As if on cue, several vehicles could be heard approaching their house. Maria immediately switched off the lights and moved to her surveillance monitors. 3 black SUVs had positioned themselves around their property, and armed figures were emerging from the vehicles. "They found us faster than I expected," Maria said, her voice becoming sharp and commanding. "Emma, listen carefully. We're going out the back escape route I built into this house. Stay behind me. Do exactly what I say and don't ask questions until we're safe." Emma watched in amazement as her mother transformed before her eyes. Gone was the gentle woman who had raised her, replaced by someone who moved with lethal precision and absolute authority. Maria strapped on tactical equipment with practiced efficiency, and Emma finally understood that everything her dorm mates had mocked was not only true, but far more serious than she had ever imagined. Maria moved through their basement with military precision, leading Emma to what appeared to be a solid concrete wall. She pressed a hidden switch, and a section of the wall slid away, revealing a tunnel that Emma never knew existed. "I built this escape route when we first moved here," Maria explained in a whisper as they entered the narrow passage. "It leads to the abandoned warehouse district about half a mile away. I have vehicles and supplies waiting there." The tunnel was equipped with lighting that activated as they moved, and Emma could see that significant planning and resources had gone into its construction. The walls were reinforced and ventilation systems hummed quietly overhead. This wasn't something a paranoid civilian would build. It was professional-grade military engineering. As they moved through the tunnel, Emma could hear sounds from above indicating that their house was being searched. There were muffled voices and the sound of furniture being moved, confirming that whoever was looking for her mother was serious about finding her. "How long have you been planning for this?" Emma asked quietly. "Since the day you were born," Maria replied without breaking stride. "I knew that eventually my past would catch up with us. I've spent 18 years preparing for this moment, hoping it would never come." They reached the end of the tunnel, which opened into the basement of what appeared to be an abandoned building. Maria checked several hidden sensors before opening the exit, ensuring the area was secure. The warehouse district was dark and quiet, exactly as she had planned. Maria led Emma to a hidden compartment where 2 motorcycles were stored, along with emergency supplies and additional weapons. The level of preparation was staggering, and Emma began to understand that her mother had never really stopped being a Navy SEAL. "We need to reach my former team," Maria explained as she started one of the motorcycles. "They're the only people I trust to help us figure out who's behind this and why now." "Your former team? You mean other women who were SEALs?" "5 of us survived the program and were given new identities," Maria said, handing Emma a helmet. "We've maintained contact over the years through secure channels, just in case something like this happened." As they rode through the empty industrial streets, Emma's mind raced with questions. Everything she thought she knew about her family and her life had been revealed as an elaborate cover story. Her mother wasn't just a former soldier. She was a highly trained operative who had been living under deep cover for nearly 2 decades. They arrived at what looked like a closed auto repair shop in another part of town. Maria used a complex entry code to open the garage door and they drove inside. The space looked normal at first glance, but Emma quickly noticed sophisticated communication equipment hidden among the automotive tools. Maria immediately went to a secure computer terminal and began typing rapidly. Within minutes, she had established contact with someone through an encrypted communication system. "Phoenix Base, this is Cardinal." Maria spoke into a microphone, using what Emma assumed were code names. "Package is secure, but the nest has been compromised. Requesting immediate extraction protocols." A woman's voice responded through the speakers. Cardinal, this is Eagle. We've been monitoring chatter about deep waters for the past week. Multiple teams are being activated across different sectors. This isn't just about you. How many others are compromised? Maria asked. At least 3 that we know of. Raven and Falcon have already gone dark. We need to assume all Deepwater's personnel are targets. Emma listened to this exchange with growing alarm. Her mother wasn't just dealing with people looking for her specifically. There was apparently a coordinated effort targeting all members of her former unit. What's the threat assessment? Maria continued. Unknown at this time, Eagle replied. Could be foreign intelligence services seeking revenge for old operations, or it could be domestic. We have intel suggesting someone with high-level government access is providing classified information to hostile parties. Maria's expression grew grim. How soon can you reach our location? ETA 6 hours, Eagle responded. We're bringing full tactical support. Whatever this is, we're going to end it before it gets worse. After ending the communication, Maria turned to Emma with a serious expression. I need you to understand something important. The people coming after us aren't ordinary criminals or even typical government agents. These are professionals who won't hesitate to eliminate anyone they see as a threat or liability. Including me? Emma asked, though she already suspected the answer. Especially you, Maria confirmed. As my daughter, you represent leverage they can use against me. But you also represent a loose end that knows too much about my real identity. The full weight of the situation hit Emma. She wasn't just an innocent bystander who had gotten caught up in her mother's past. She had become a target simply by existing. Her normal life at college, her friendships, her future plans, everything had become impossible the moment someone decided to investigate Maria Vasquez. What happens now? Emma asked. Now we wait for my team to arrive, Maria said, beginning to check and clean several weapons with practiced efficiency. And then we're going to find out who's behind this and make sure they can never threaten our family again. Emma watched her mother work, noting the complete transformation from suburban mom to military operative. Every movement was precise and purposeful, and she handled the weapons with the familiarity of someone who had used them professionally for years. Mom, Emma said quietly. Those girls at college who made fun of me for saying you were a SEAL? Maria looked up from her weapons maintenance with a slight smile. What about them? They're going to feel pretty stupid when they realize they were mocking one of the most dangerous women in the military. If we handle this correctly, Maria replied, they'll never know how close they came to meeting someone who could have eliminated their entire dormitory without breaking a sweat. Outside, the sound of approaching vehicles could be heard in the distance. Maria immediately moved to defensive positions, but this time her posture relaxed when she identified the engine sounds. That's Eagle's team, she announced. Emma, you're about to meet some remarkable women who are going to help us get our lives back. 3 black vehicles entered the garage, and Emma watched as 6 women emerged, each moving with the same controlled precision she had observed in her mother. They were dressed in civilian clothes, but their bearing and the way they immediately secured the perimeter left no doubt about their military backgrounds. The woman who appeared to be the team leader approached Maria with a combination of professional respect and genuine affection. She was tall and athletic, with short blonde hair and intense green eyes that seemed to catalog every detail of their surroundings. Cardinal, good to see you're still in one piece, the woman said, embracing Maria briefly before stepping back to assess Emma. This must be the package. Eagle, meet my daughter Emma, Maria replied. Emma, this is Sarah Chen, formerly known as Eagle. She was our team leader during the Deep Waters program. Sarah extended her hand to Emma with a warm smile that contrasted sharply with her obviously lethal capabilities. Your mother has told us a lot about you over the years. I'm sorry we're meeting under these circumstances. The other women gathered around and Maria made introductions. There was Dr. Jennifer Walsh, codename Raven, who served as the team's medic and intelligence specialist. Maria Rodriguez, called Hawk, was their demolitions and tech expert. Lisa Thompson, known as Falcon, handled communications and electronic warfare. Finally, there was Amanda Foster, codename Viper, who specialized in close-quarters combat and psychological operations. Emma stared at the group in amazement. These women looked like they could be teachers, businesswomen, or soccer moms in their civilian lives. Yet the way they moved and communicated made it clear they were among the most dangerous people she would ever encounter. What's the current threat status? Maria asked, immediately falling back into military communication patterns. We intercepted communications indicating a coordinated strike against all known Deep Waters veterans, Sarah replied, pulling out a tablet with intelligence briefings. The operation is being funded by Viktor Petrov, a Russian arms dealer we disrupted during a mission in Montenegro 7 years ago. Emma watched as her mother's expression hardened at the mention of the name. I thought Petrov was eliminated during the embassy extraction. Apparently not, Dr. Walsh interjected. He survived and has spent the past several years building a network specifically designed to hunt down everyone involved in that mission. He's been gathering intelligence on our post-service identities and families. Lisa Thompson added, he's not working alone. We have evidence of cooperation with several other criminal organizations, and possibly some corrupt government officials, who want to eliminate evidence of the Deep Waters program. The scope of the threat was staggering. Emma realized that her mother and these women weren't just dealing with a single enemy, but with an entire network of hostile actors who had been planning this revenge for years. What's the plan? Amanda Foster asked, her voice carrying the tone of someone eager for action. Sarah spread out several maps and satellite images on a nearby table. Petrov is operating from a compound in the Canadian wilderness about 200 miles north of the border. He's got between 15 and 20 men, all former military or mercenaries. His plan is to eliminate us one by one, using our families as leverage. He's already taken Sparrow's family, Dr. Walsh said grimly, referring to the 6th member of their team who wasn't present. We have 48 hours before he starts executing them if we don't surrender ourselves. Emma felt a chill run down her spine. They're using innocent people as bait to force you to walk into a trap. Exactly, Maria confirmed. Which is why we're not going to play by his rules. We're going to take the fight to him before he expects it. Sarah began outlining their plan, and Emma was struck by the complexity and precision of their thinking. These women were approaching the situation like the military operation it had become, with detailed intelligence, multiple contingency plans, and clear objectives. Emma, Sarah said, turning to her with a serious expression, we need to discuss your role in this operation. My role? Emma asked, surprised. I assumed I would be staying somewhere safe while you handle this. The women exchanged glances, and Emma could sense they had already discussed this among themselves. Dr. Walsh spoke up first. Unfortunately, there's no such thing as safe until we eliminate Petrov and his network. As long as you exist, you're a vulnerability they can exploit. More than that, Amanda added, you've been living with Cardinal for 18 years. Whether you realize it or not, she's been training you. Your reflexes, your awareness, your decision-making under pressure. You're not a typical college student anymore. Maria looked at her daughter with a mixture of pride and regret. They're right, sweetheart. I've been unconsciously preparing you for a situation like this your entire life. You know more about tactics, self-defense, and survival than most military recruits. Emma thought about all the lessons her mother had taught her over the years, disguised as normal parenting. The way Maria had taught her to always be aware of exit routes, to trust her instincts about people, to remain calm under pressure. Emma had always assumed these were just good life skills, but now she understood they were survival training. So what exactly are you asking me to do? Emma asked. Sarah pulled up architectural plans on her tablet. Petrov's compound has one significant vulnerability. There's a service entrance that's too small for adult infiltration, but would be perfect for someone your size. If you can get inside and disable their communication system, it would give us a significant tactical advantage. The room fell silent as Emma processed what they were asking. These women, who had spent years as elite special forces operators, were asking her to participate in a military operation against a dangerous criminal organization. I'll do it, Emma said quietly, surprising herself with the certainty in her voice. Maria started to object, but Emma cut her off. Mom, you just told me that my normal life is over until we resolve this situation. If that's true, then I need to be part of the solution. I'm not going to hide while good people die because of Petrov's vendetta against you. Sarah smiled approvingly. Spoken like a true SEAL's daughter. We leave in 6 hours. Emma, time to learn what your mother really taught you. The next few hours transformed Emma's understanding of what her mother had really been teaching her throughout her childhood. Under the guidance of the Deep Waters team, Emma discovered that her reflexes, physical conditioning, and tactical thinking were far more advanced than any typical college student. Dr. Walsh tested Emma's medical knowledge and was amazed to find that Maria had taught her advanced first aid, pressure point manipulation, and even basic field surgery techniques under the guise of general health education. What Emma had thought were science projects were actually tactical medical training. Amanda Foster evaluated Emma's hand-to-hand combat skills and found that 18 years of self-defense lessons had created someone capable of neutralizing armed opponents. The moves Maria had taught her daughter, claiming they were just good exercise, were actually lethal SEAL combat techniques. "Your mother is a genius," Sarah observed as they watched Emma demonstrate her capabilities. "She's been creating a backup operator without anyone, including Emma." Realizing it, Lisa Thompson worked with Emma on the technical aspects of their mission, teaching her how to identify and disable the specific communication systems they expected to find at Petrov's compound. Emma's familiarity with electronics, which she had attributed to her mother's mechanical aptitude, proved to be sophisticated knowledge of military-grade equipment. As they prepared to depart, Emma felt a strange combination of terror and excitement. 3 days ago, she had been a college student worried about dormitory politics. Now she was preparing to participate in a military operation alongside some of the most dangerous women in the world. The team traveled in separate vehicles toward the Canadian border, using routes and crossing points that avoided official checkpoints. Emma rode with her mother, and during the long drive, Maria finally told her the complete story of the Montenegro mission that had started this entire conflict. Petrov was trafficking weapons to terrorist organizations, Maria explained. Our mission was to infiltrate his operation and gather evidence for international prosecution. But when we discovered he was planning to sell chemical weapons to groups targeting civilian populations, our orders changed. "You were told to eliminate him," Emma guessed. "The official record shows that Viktor Petrov died in an accidental explosion at his weapons facility," Maria said carefully. "What actually happened is that we destroyed his entire operation and left him for dead. Apparently, we didn't finish the job properly. They crossed into Canada through a remote section of wilderness, meeting up with the rest of the team at an abandoned hunting lodge about 50 miles from Petrov's compound. Sarah had been monitoring his communications and confirmed that he was holding Sparrow's family at the location, along with detailed files on all Deepwater's veterans and their families. "He knows everything about us," Sarah reported grimly. "Our real names, our current identities, our families, our daily routines. This isn't just about revenge. He's planning to sell this information to every enemy we made during our years of service." The implications were staggering. If Petrov's intelligence fell into the wrong hands, it wouldn't just threaten the Deepwater's veterans. It could compromise dozens of other operations and put countless innocent people at risk. "How close can we get before they detect us?" Amanda asked, studying satellite imagery of the compound. "About half a mile through the forest," Maria replied. "After that, they have motion sensors and thermal imaging. But Emma's entry point is outside their main detection grid. They spent the remaining daylight hours finalizing their plan. Emma would approach the compound alone, using a drainage system that connected to the service tunnel Sarah had identified. Once inside, she would disable their communication systems and create a diversion that would allow the Deepwater's team to breach the main compound. As night fell, Emma found herself checking and rechecking her equipment with the same precision she had observed in her mother and the other women. The tactical gear felt familiar, as if she had been preparing for this moment her entire life. "Are you ready for this?" Maria asked as they prepared to move out. "I think I've been ready for this since I was 5 years old," Emma replied. "I just didn't know what I was getting ready for." The team moved through the forest with the silent efficiency of apex predators. Emma was amazed at how naturally she fell into the tactical movement patterns, staying low, avoiding noise, and maintaining visual contact with the others through hand signals her mother had taught her during childhood games. When they reached the perimeter of Petrov's compound, Emma could see the target through night vision equipment. The facility looked like a military installation, with guard towers, motion sensors, and armed patrols. This wasn't the operation of a simple criminal. It was a professional military compound. "Remember," Sarah whispered into Emma's radio, "you're not just Maria Santos's daughter anymore. Tonight you're part of the Deepwater's team. Trust your training and trust yourself." Emma moved toward her entry point, leaving her mother and the other women positioned around the compound's perimeter. For the first time since this nightmare began, she felt completely calm and focused. Whatever happened next, she was exactly where she was supposed to be. As she disappeared into the drainage system, Emma heard her mother's voice in her earpiece. "I'm proud of you, sweetheart. Show them what a SEAL's daughter can do." Above ground, Maria and her team prepared for the assault that would determine whether the Deep Waters program remained buried or became the foundation for something even more dangerous. The next few hours would decide not just their survival, but the safety of every person whose life had been touched by their classified service. Emma crawled through the drainage system with the patience and precision her mother had unknowingly taught her during years of childhood adventure games. The tunnel was exactly as Sarah's intelligence had indicated, leading directly into the compound's utility areas without triggering the main security systems. She emerged inside a mechanical room filled with generators, water systems, and most importantly, the communication hub that connected the compound to the outside world. Using the techniques Lisa had taught her just hours earlier, Emma began systematically disabling their satellite communications, radio systems, and internet connections. Through her earpiece, she could hear the Deep Waters team moving into position around the compound's perimeter. Her mother's voice was calm and professional, completely transformed from the gentle woman who had raised her. This was Cardinal, the Navy SEAL, coordinating a military operation with lethal efficiency. "Communications are down," Emma whispered into her microphone as she completed her sabotage. Moving to Phase 2. Phase 2 involved creating a distraction that would draw guards away from the main building where Sparrow's family was being held. Emma had volunteered for the most dangerous part of the plan, and as she prepared to execute it, she understood why her mother had tried so hard to give her a normal life. Using improvised explosive devices that Amanda had taught her to construct from common materials, Emma set charges in the compound's power station. When they detonated, the entire facility would lose electricity, forcing the guards to investigate while providing cover for the team's assault. As she worked, Emma heard voices approaching the mechanical room. 2 guards were conducting a routine patrol, and she realized she was about to face her first real combat situation. Every instinct her mother had trained into her suddenly activated, and Emma found herself moving with deadly efficiency. The first guard entered the room expecting to check gauges and equipment. Instead, he encountered a young woman who had been trained by one of the world's most dangerous operatives. Emma disabled him silently using pressure point techniques her mother had taught her during anatomy lessons and secured his weapon before the second guard realized anything was wrong. The second guard was more alert, but 18 years of games with her mother had prepared Emma for exactly this situation. She used the confined space to her advantage, employing close-quarters combat techniques that Maria had disguised as dance lessons and flexibility training. Within minutes, both guards were unconscious and secured. Emma completed setting her charges and moved toward the extraction point, amazed at how natural the entire sequence had felt. She wasn't a terrified college student anymore. She was a Deep Waters operative completing her mission. "Diversion charges set," Emma reported. "Exiting the compound now." "Copy that package," Sarah responded. "Excellent work. Prepare for fireworks in 30 seconds. Emma reached the drainage system just as her explosives detonated, plunging the compound into darkness and chaos. Through her night vision equipment, she watched as guards rushed toward the power station, exactly as the team had predicted. That was the signal for the main assault. Maria and her team moved through the compound like ghosts, neutralizing guards with the precision that had made them legends in the special operations community. Emma watched her mother in action and finally understood what the term elite warrior really meant. The rescue of Sparrow's family took less than 10 minutes. The Deep Waters team moved through the facility with such coordination and efficiency that the remaining guards never had a chance to mount an effective defense. Years of separation hadn't diminished their ability to function as a perfect military unit. Emma met them at the extraction point, where she got her first look at Viktor Petrov. He had been captured alive, along with his intelligence files and evidence of his network's operations. The man who had terrorized her family looked smaller and more pathetic than she had expected. "You're Maria Santos's daughter," Petrov said when he saw Emma, his accent thick with disbelief. "Impossible. You're supposed to be just an ordinary college girl." I was never ordinary, Emma replied calmly. I'm a Navy SEAL's daughter. Sarah was coordinating with government contacts to ensure that Petrov's network would be completely dismantled and his intelligence files secured. The operation had been so successful that within hours, international law enforcement agencies were conducting simultaneous raids on Petrov's associates around the world. During the helicopter flight back to the United States, Emma sat with her mother and the other Deep Waters veterans, listening to them discuss the mission with the same casual professionalism they might use to review a training exercise. These women had just executed one of the most complex rescue operations ever attempted, and they were treating it as routine work. So what happens now? Emma asked as they approached the border. Now you get to make a choice, Sarah replied. You can go back to college and pretend this never happened, with the understanding that you'll always be protected by people who owe your family a debt they can never repay. Or? Emma prompted, sensing there was another option. Maria looked at her daughter with a mixture of pride and concern. Or you can accept that you're not meant for an ordinary life. Your skills, your training, your natural abilities, they're all pointing towards something more significant than college and a conventional career. Dr. Walsh added, the government has been considering restarting a program similar to Deep Waters. If that happens, they're going to need people with your unique qualifications and background. Emma thought about her dorm mates back at college, probably still gossiping about their ordinary problems and their parents' conventional careers. She thought about Jessica and Rebecca, who had mocked the idea that her mother could be anything more than a typical suburban mom. I think, Emma said slowly, that I've had enough of people underestimating what women can accomplish. 3 months later, Emma Martinez officially withdrew from college and disappeared from all public records. According to official documentation, she had died in a hiking accident in Canada. In reality, she had been recruited into a classified program that would train her to follow in her mother's footsteps. The last entry in Jessica's dormitory diary read, Emma never came back from that weekend trip home. Her mom came to collect her things and she seemed really normal and boring. I guess Emma just couldn't handle college life and decided to drop out. She was always weird anyway, making up stories about her family. If Jessica had looked more carefully at the woman who collected Emma's belongings, she might have noticed the perfect posture, the constant situational awareness, and the way she moved with lethal grace. But Jessica saw only what she expected to see. An ordinary mother dealing with her daughter's academic failure. Maria Santos smiled as she drove away from the college, knowing that somewhere in the world her daughter was learning to become something extraordinary. The Deep Waters program was officially dead, but its legacy lived on in Emma Martinez, who would never again have to convince anyone that her mother was a Navy SEAL. Some stories, Maria reflected, are too dangerous to tell until they're finished. But when they're finally revealed, they change everything people thought they knew about what's possible.